going on, guys? XollFury here, and welcome to another Let's Talk. Haven't done one of these in a while, not since the Mesmer. It's been a month or two.
It's been a while.
Been a while.
It's been a while.
Indeed. Of course, you know who I am. I'm XollFury, and then I'm joined by my good friend, Zamboni Chaos.
As
and
always.
then this guy, well, actually, you already know who that is.
He needs no introduction.
Needs no introduction.
Don't mind me, I'm here for the food.
Yes. Okay, and today's Let's Talk topic is...
I knew I'd be put on the spot, as usual. No, today we want to discuss the idea of stories in video games and how important they should be, how focused they should be, you know, what a developer needs to think about when writing a story, or how big a role a story really plays in a video game.
Yeah.
And if it differs depending on the type of game. And that's just what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So, I should mention, I'll start this off. I thought of this topic, or we thought of this topic when we were playing the Old Republic, and we kind of we hit a point, and I know I hit this point, where about level 30, I realized that I was only playing the game for the story, and I wanted to experience the single-player story, and that the social aspect of the game, an MMO, had no appeal to me. It wasn't grab me. The mechanics the combat got boring. The grinding got repetitive, and all I was really playing it for was to experience my story.
I reached that at about level 25.
Yeah,
and that's of course with an alt at like level 20. But yeah.
Yeah, and so I realized that I don't want to play through another 20 levels just to see how my character story ends. Not if it's the same 20 levels of grinding, the same quests, and basically soloing everything. That was boring to me.
Yeah, to me, I wanted to get to the next point in the story at around level 24, 25-ish on my Sith Warrior. I got to the point in the story where I was just like, wow, I really want to know what happens next. And you know what happens? Hey, go to Tatooine and then go grind for about 5 hours before you get anything more in the story.
Yeah. I mean, I know you played the Old Republic too. I mean,
I played Bounty Hunter, and, I reached the point, that it was just like, I don't care about the story. It's just grind.
Right. It's like the story was interesting, but at some point, it didn't hold water because the time between each story segment was increasing because the planets were getting bigger. You had to go through more experience before you leveled up. And so it just got to be really, really monotonous. And I was thinking, I was like, is that something Guild Wars 2 is going to have a problem with? Because they've really put a lot of focus on your single-player story, right? It's going to be your experience, you're important. The Old Republic tried to do that. So what I'm asking is it possible for an MMO to say, hey, this is a great single-player experience, look at this, while also bringing in the multiplayer social aspect, which is crucial to having an MMO succeed? Is that joining possible, or is that just too much of an identity crisis to have in a game?
Well, I mean, you can take, examples of how stories have interacted, how you've interacted with stories with various games.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Halo, you liked the story, but the story wasn't necessarily relevant. It was just, the situation for you to be a
It was
badass.
An excuse to shoot things, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then they tacked on the story.
Yeah, surprisingly though, the story was actually pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they thought out the story ahead of time. It was just, they had the first one, great story. Second one, okay, I can wrap my mind around it. Third one, okay, there's some flaws here.
Right.
But okay, great ending, awesome. Yeah. Okay, they're setting it up for the next one. And then it goes back to Reach, and they're like, wait a minute, okay, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, they tried, we won't make any spoilers for Reach, but basically what they did, or do you think we can spoil it?
Probably.
It's been long
Reach
enough.
by
If
now.
you haven't played Reach yet, then there's something wrong. So, preface this with a spoiler alert. But
I have not played Reach yet.
Well, you don't care. But at the end of Halo Reach, you are basically, it's a Spartan task force, and they've been tasked with recovering basically this artifact that they have to get to the Pillar of Autumn, which has to escape Reach. And, that's how Halo 1 starts. The Pillar of Autumn is making its escape from Reach. And the artifact you have to recover ends up being Cortana, the AI. So, all of a sudden, you start to realize that Cortana was just picked up at the end of Reach, placed onto the Pillar of Autumn, didn't know any of the crew, didn't know anyone. Pillar of Autumn escaped Reach, and then Halo 1 begins with them on the run from the Covenant fleet, and it's like Cortana has she acts and interacts with the crew and the Captain Keys like she's been there, she's known them, she's been in multiple conflicts with the Covenant, she's been there the whole time, right? So all of a sudden you're just like, wait, how does that work? They just found her, they just pulled her out of this alien vessel, threw her onto the Pillar of Autumn, and all of a sudden she acts like she's known that crew for years.
Mm-hmm. And the whole time she was like, Master Chief, yes, we know this guy, I've worked with him the entire time. Her actual quote was, they've always been ahead of us.
Right.
Every time, they've known exactly where we come, and they've always defeated us.
Right. And really, she had never had any experience with the Covenant until then, according to the actual story arc. So you find flaws like that when you get into games, especially shooters, because like I said, they're just an excuse to shoot things. It's hard to find a shooter with a really good story. So, you find those flaws, but I think to create a story, I don't think you necessarily need in a shooter a really deep world. It helps. Like Halo was just the right. It was the right amount of deep.
Take a look at the Call of Duty series and the Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
The older Call of Duty had some really compelling stories.
It was World War II. It pulled out a historical.
Right.
They could write their own fiction against a historical background.
But then the Modern Warfare, it was like you're shooting things. I mean, I don't actually own the game because I don't own a current console. But I was playing it at your place, actually, Modern Warfare 2, and I was sitting there going, okay, why the hell am I here? I mean, I'm shooting guys, and I know I need to blow up the tank, but what is going on?
and
it doesn't matter in that game.
Because it's about the mechanics, it's about the shooting, it's about the...
I mean, you're only doing the single player for, 4 hours?
Right. Right, and that game became such a multiplayer-focused game anyway, but I guess when I'm back to my original... question about
a tangent.
Well, yeah, but it's relevant because Guild Wars 2 will be an RPG. It may be an MMORPG, but it's still an RPG. And in a role-playing game, the role you're playing needs to be, I think, just fleshed out through the world you are role-playing in. Mm-hmm. That's how it is with pretty much any RPG. You want to care about the world you're in.
Yeah,
because usually you're playing a pretty big role in it.
Yeah.
Now with Tor, they tried to give you that big role.
Mm-hmm.
But the pacing of the story, there wasn't enough in between to keep you interested,
right,
and to keep you playing,
right.
So what can Guild Wars 2 do in order to keep the player interested from point A to point B to point C of their personal storyline?
Yeah.
Or are they going to make the same mistake toward it and put too much emphasis on it?
Well, let's compare that to what everybody knows and what everybody's going to compare any MMO forever to from now on, which is, of course, World of Warcraft.
Right.
You didn't care about the story in World of Warcraft.
No.
If you cared enough, you might have gone back and looked, oh, that's what Arthas did.
Look up the wiki or something.
Yeah. That's what I did. Like, legit, that's what I did. I was like, I wonder what the story of Arthas is. I played through all of Northrend where they explain everything if you actually care to take the time, but no one does.
Well, I got bored at work one day, and I was just like, on the World of Warcraft site, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what the story is. That is really interesting.
And it is. It's extremely compelling, extremely deep, extremely well thought out and planned out.
And if you research
but no one cares.
If you research it, it gives you more of a respect for the game.
Yeah.
But that's not why you play. That's not why you play.
Yeah.
And you don't care about the story because the game doesn't lend itself to you caring about its story.
Right. You're not a big deal. You're just a small cog. And these are the events happening around you. You don't need that context. And why don't you need that? Was it because WoW hit a spot? Was its game design so brilliant at the time that it was just fun? Like you grinding, was that fun? Was that fun at one point? Was that ever fun at one point?
Yes.
Okay. Honestly, World of Warcraft, I almost quit at about 20, 25-ish.
Why?
Because I got bored of leveling on my druid.
What kept you in the game?
May I enter? Well, no, go.
Yeah, tell me what kept you in.
What kept you in the game?
The dungeons. Being with a group of people that I kind of knew that I would go to an objective and complete it with these people and have fun.
And build relationships and maybe adventure and do more dungeons with those people in the future.
And it wasn't the storyline or it wasn't the action, it wasn't the mechanics that kept me in it. It was the fact that these people needed me to continue on with their story as well.
To perform a very, very particular role as well.
Yes.
So, what are we going to say?
I was going to say that I'm that guy who was like, I'm bored. I'll roll another tune.
Right.
And I did. I must have gotten so many tunes up to level 30 at least. Plenty of them up to 40. And probably close to about 10 in total up to about 50.
So you were one of those people who just liked questing.
Yes. I did.
So,
and it was, I got it, I've talked about this before in other Let's Talks, but it got to the point where I knew the zones well enough that I could know which one to go to at which level, how to most efficiently collect and complete all of the quests, and move on to the next one in the optimal amount of time.
Yeah.
And I got it down to a science. I mean, I could go from level 1 to 30 in like 8 hours.
Yeah.
Oh heck no! I just AOE grinded on my mage.
But see, that's not.
Link crossover.
But see, that's actually not as effective as questing. But we don't need to
But
get
I
into all
had
that.
fun.
But
If you like questing so much, why did Tor not do it for you?
because
I mean, it had that, everything you love, plus it added voice acting. The combat was pretty cool.
now here's something I never thought I would hear myself say. WoW did it better. I think
so?
they did the questing better.
Well,
I don't know how that makes sense in my head, but it does. Tor, it was like, I don't really want to be killing all these guys. But in WoW, now maybe it was just me at the time of when I was playing WoW that I didn't mind it, and now it's like I want something new. But at the time of WoW, it was fun. It was like, okay, go kill 10 forest stalkers. Cool!
Yeah.
You know? But
do you think
now
it had something to do with the identity crisis that Tor suffers
it
from?
may have had, because
They
I
tried
was
to put you into the
expecting...
story. They tried to put you into the story.
Exactly. I was
And you just
expecting
do the same thing.
KOTOR 3.
Right.
And then it's like, all right, this cool thing happens. I have to go find this person and kill them. And, oh, now I have to go do all this side crap? Oh, okay, I guess.
It was like, yeah, it's like, it would be better if they just gave you, like, just grind.
Right.
Not the story.
Right. And actually, I think it would have.
So that's very interesting. And
Yeah.
like I said, if Guild Wars 2 suffers from that problem,
See,
I think it could be. I think it's going to be an
I'm
issue.
going to say that comment. But okay, yes, I would agree. I would
Okay.
agree, definitely.
So what does Guild Wars 2 need to do in order to not fall into that trap of becoming so bipolar in its presentation?
See, here's something I wanted to bring up a little while ago. Most MMOs are structured around the concept of we talked about this a little bit, but you are a hero, but you're not the dude. You're not the guy who's going to save everything, like Commander Shepard.
Yeah.
You're not that guy who's the fate of the galaxy rests on your shoulders.
No,
you're not
on you and
everyone else. Exactly.
Right.
And for something like that, you don't really need to focus on the story as much. And I thought about Guild Wars 1, and their storytelling was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm talking prophecies here, because that's the only one that I played most of the campaign on. And their storytelling was actually really good. Their story, we were talking a little bit before about comparing Mass Effect to everything else, and how full and thought out, rich the universe is in Mass Effect. And
I made the point that's why you play Mass Effect.
Right.
It's not because, the gameplay mechanics of it might be fun, but if it didn't have the world that they created, you wouldn't care as much. I guarantee you, none of us would be as hyped as we were about Mass Effect 3, because we know the Reapers are coming, and that's something that matters. Like, in most games, that wouldn't matter. You're like, oh yeah, we'll kick their ass, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, he's like, wow, this is going to be the culmination of my story, the world that I've built. The choices that I've made are going to have real impact on everything. And I'm going to get an ending that's unique to my experience, and it's all going to come together. That's something you can't find anywhere.
And also, the fact that the first two games you killed one Reaper each.
Yeah.
And now you know it's the hundreds and the thousands that are coming now.
It's just that hopeless situation that makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to do
And
this?
that actual legitimate sense of terror.
Yes.
That so many games, it's like, we're the good guys, we're gonna win.
Yeah.
But Mass Effect, it's like...
The game starts with
You're
Earth
just-
getting trashed, basically.
Yeah.
And you have to run away.
Yeah, and Mass Effect, it's you legitimately, you're like, I am terrified of these things. Like, when in the first game, the first time, I will never forget this, the first time I actually talked to Sovereign and was like, holy crap! I was legitimate. I was like, oh my god! I just
And
couldn't
it's
believe
moments
it.
like that I think games don't do enough of.
Yes.
They don't give you those moments where you're like, wow, that's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And they really make you care.
Yeah.
And so, but that's a single player RPG.
Right.
And it needs to do that to succeed.
Yes.
Does Guild Wars 2 need to do that to succeed? I personally don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think if they can present a world that you want to play with your friends in, and it enables you to play with your friends, and really makes it worthwhile, then they're going to succeed.
Yeah.
If they give you enough content to do with your friends, whether it's 1 to 80 or 80 and after, they have to give you that content. Otherwise, you're just going to kind of do what I did in Tor and just say, why am I playing this?
Yeah.
Why?
Let me raise a question here. I'm going to get to that question in a second. But
controlling us.
Question, not a question.
No. A statement before the question. The statement is, we would all agree. Actually, this is a sort of a question. I'm just gonna just screw that. Okay, we would all agree that WoW is not a very good game in the scheme of things at this point, correct?
Correct.
At this time, no.
Okay. We would all agree that WoW is outdated.
Yes, but it's still relevant.
Right. I mean, as far as mechanics and engine and actual.
Yes, but that's to be expected.
Right.
But yeah,
right.
Let's say yes, it's out there.
Okay, we would all agree then that there are better products out there to play.
You would think so.
Are you talking about in the sense
MMOs?
of MMOs?
Yes, MMOs. Yeah, I mean that there are better crafted MMOs out there.
There are better crafted MMOs, certainly, but
Dude, they don't present it as well as almost.
there's currently no MMOs out there right now I would want to play.
I would
Okay.
agree. I would agree. And if there was an MMO that if I woke
And
up
then-
and just had a complete change of heart and go back to, it would be WoW.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is.
Then this actually gets into my question here. Why do people still play it?
It's the time. Well, part of it's the time investment.
The time
They have
investment.
played this
I would
game for
disagree.
and the relationships they've built
That
with
is
the people they play with.
that is my point.
They have a real
It is-
connection with those people.
Exactly. People
It's like
still
going to
play
college, going to high school. These are people you've shared experiences with, overcome challenges with, built relationships with. That's why WoW is still so popular.
WoW.
To answer that question, I'd have to pose another question. Why did we quit?
Yes.
I would say I quit because the group wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't fun to quest grind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't fun to do PvP.
Right.
It took so long. You and I had like 45-minute arena battles.
Don't remind me.
And we would just like, okay,
No, seriously.
pop out, bow, leave.
Yeah.
No,
We're
this
done.
this legitimately happened. I was a holy pally, he was a feral druid, and we fought this. I will never forget this. We fought another team. This was twos. He was a holy pally healer, and then an affliction lock.
Uh-huh.
And we fought them for literally 45 minutes.
While I'm screaming at them, with pounding on
Screaming
my
over
keyboard.
Skype. Screaming. And it got to the point so many times where their lock would almost die and then he's at full health. And then he would almost die and then full health. And I mean, it was nuts, and it just went on and on
So
and
group
on.
questing didn't matter anymore. Wasn't relevant. PvP was too monotonous and just not fun.
Dungeons were no longer fun as well. The dungeons
Yeah.
that we had gotten used to in Wrath were simple, easy. You AoE through them, and those were. I thought they were, kind of fun.
I
just
enjoyed
something
the
to blow off
Cataclysm
steam.
dungeons. The reason I didn't like them was because was my schedule at work at the time. I couldn't play with my guild. I didn't have a real connection with the guild at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to queue up and wait in 45 minutes for a queue that would probably fail to do heroic.
See, that was the thing.
So there was
the group
I had no opportunity to progress.
with the harder dungeons. It was the learning curve, and then unless you were with that specific group of friends each time, you were gonna fail.
So for people that have that, and we talked about them playing the game because of those relationships, the game is probably still really fun for them, and that's great. I'm not denying that WoW can still be fun, because it can be. I know it can be. But WoW aside, Guild Wars 2 will need to somehow replicate that. They will need to give you the ability to build those relationships, to have those experiences of, wow, this total stranger and me just completed something by working together. We talked a bit, kind of hung out. We're cool. Maybe I'll meet up with them later.
And I think WoW proved that random queuing isn't necessarily going to work.
Right.
Because you're going to have the trolls, you're going to have the people who suck, you're going to have groups that just are utterly fail.
Right. But we also come full circle back to the single-player storyline. And if they press that too much, do you think it will encourage players not to group? Because, you can do everything on your own. So, will that social interaction even form? Mm-hmm. Or to the same extent WoW did to make it successful? Yeah. That's the ultimate question.
I actually have a number of things to actually say about that, about how Guild Wars 2 is going to take these problems, legitimate problems that other MMOs have had, and actually fix them. And that's there's a hope here, because Guild Wars 2 says they're going to do this, but can they deliver is the really big question there.
I mean, it's hard to tell at this point.
Right.
It's really hard to tell.
Right.
Because we don't have a lot of... I mean, the beta's coming up.
Right.
So we'll get probably a better understanding of that after the press beta goes out and people start looking at it and being critical of it. So...
There's a number of things that I need to talk about here. Number 1 is the single player. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is the multiplayer. And number 3 is... It'll kind of tie into both, but how important the story is.
I thought you were going to pull a Rick Perry on us there for a second.
No. Number 3 is...
There is no number 3.
Number 3 is a lie.
Single player, multiplayer, and... Oh man, I just can't remember.
The third rule of Fight Club.
Oh god.
Whoops.
Whoops.
Did I say whoops?
Oops. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the single player, I'm going to talk about the multiplayer, and then kind of how the story ties into both of them and how important that is. Okay, so about the single player, can you play one... I'll just pose a couple questions here. Can you play from level 1 to level 80 by yourself? I actually had a question about this on my latest Guild Wars 2 101, which was just that. And yes.
Continue, sir.
And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. Now, again, this is a hope, and I hope it's not going to, screw that sentence. Yes, you can. Majorly. Yes, you can. You can play from level 1 to 80. I hope that the story is going to be long enough to do that, but just by playing the story, the personal story. And even if you don't want to do that, you can still play it by yourself by doing events and stuff by yourself, and then other side quests.
So that was my question, though. Is that going to keep people, and is it going to discourage people from grouping and playing as a group? Is there going to be enough, interesting things to do as a group?
Just because you can doesn't mean you'll want to. The quest, I know that's not really an answer, but the events are set up in a way that, you can do them by yourself, but it's a lot more fun with more people.
Do you think people will be drawn to those?
I think so.
To actually play as a group?
I would think so.
But you can't get by on dynamic events alone.
No, that's true. But something that the developers said was that when they were just watching people playing the demos at these gaming conventions, they noticed that people just started to automatically just formed groups. No one invited anyone, but they would just go around in a group and do the events and quests and do that kind of a thing, and that just naturally happened all over the place. And there's got to be something to that. There's got to be a reason for that.
But you can't rely on that. And Tor, it didn't happen at all.
Very rarely.
We even tried to band together and do the quests together, and that didn't always work out. That wasn't always fun.
Right. Yeah, they're going to have to make the group content not only good, mechanically good, but appealing to groups. Saying, hey, if we get together, this is fun. It's more fun the more people we have. The more the merrier. Right. They're really going to have to hit that nail on the head.
Consider Wailing Caverns. I mean, yes, Wailing Caverns was the most awesome starter dungeon I've ever seen.
I disagree. I hated that place.
I love that
so place. Confusing. Dear God, which way am I going?
But you just started picking up so many quests for that. It's okay,
that is true.
Might as well just go and do that, do all these quests. And then you do it, and I was like, wow, it was long. I liked it because it was long. it was meaningful. It had everything to do with these quests. It had the storyline behind it, and then you felt like you solved the problem,
Right.
and then you got your gear, which was even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, the instances in WoW, they didn't feel tacked on. They felt like they
Right.
had a place in the world.
Right.
Tor's instances, they felt tacked on.
Absolutely.
They felt like they were just kind of out there for you to
Because
do.
they were all on spaceships and
It
astroroids.
didn't make
And
any sense. You
it
took a
was
shuttle
like-
to these places. It wasn't like you're running along, whoa, there's the entrance to that place.
And then you had
Yeah.
the group quests on, the actual planets, but you didn't feel like doing them because it was just like, well,
Yeah.
it's quicker just to do all my single
Yeah.
ones, and
And
that
more
gets me
efficient.
there anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
because you want to get through the story.
Right.
Mhm. And it doesn't get you any better gear for doing the group.
Right. So yeah, I mean, those are problems with Tor. I hope we see them fixed in Guild Wars 2. I hope they take a new approach, and I hope they do kind of take a little inspiration from WoW and saying, hey, this group content really has a place in the world. It's really important. You guys should do this.
Mhm.
That's what I hope to see, and I think they're going to need to do that not only during the leveling process, but in the end game especially.
Mhm.
And they're going to have to keep these people here.
There's a number of major implementations that Guild Wars 2 has that will hopefully have more people play together. And
Yeah.
the number one thing on that I can think of off the top of my head is them having gotten rid of the Holy Trinity. You can
Yeah.
play with whoever you want. It's not I'm a tank, or rather, I need to be a tank
Right.
to roll to get into
You
this
won't
guild.
have that class polarization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're just like, I'm a warrior, you're a warrior, and two other guys are warriors, and we're just like, screw it, let's go do this dungeon. We need someone else. Hey, you're a warrior too. Come on.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
You're
it
right.
doesn't matter.
You're right. That is a good,
And
a good point.
yeah,
I think
and
that'll be really good.
another
I think
major.
that'll help too, because in Tor, I bounty hunter. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be a tank or a healer. I didn't want to take the time to relearn that again.
Right.
Relearn which moves are supposed to be tanks.
Yeah, now with the group
Actually-
content in Guild Wars 2, you're just going to be playing your class the
Yeah.
way you want
Mhm.
to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you don't need to be in a party with someone to share the experience and loot with them.
I think that's
When
that's
you are
interesting.
both fighting a monster, you will both get rewarded based on how helpful you were towards killing that monster. And that takes in support things, like if you were an elemental, you can use a lot of water magic to heal people.
Okay, and then that will also take into account people trolling, trying to tag, monsters like level 1s,
Tagging does not
level 80s.
See, this is one of the biggest things that Guild Wars 2 has implemented. In every MMO that I have played so far, there's this idea of tagging. For those of you who don't know, when you see a monster, the person who gets the first hit on it gets all of the experience and all of the loot, and it actually turns from red to gray
Yeah.
for everyone else, and no matter what they do, they will get 0 rewards from it.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm getting at here with Guild Wars 2, is that you can tag whoever you want, but if that's all you do, if you tag it and run, you're not going to get much experience for it. Whereas if you tag it and run and someone else comes up and picks it up and kills it, they'll get most of the rewards from it.
So tagging that essentially doesn't exist.
Exactly, it does not exist.
But what about in terms of you're trying to do a quest, or you're...
Like in terms of quest rewards?
Or what if in the terms of a rare spawn, you found the rare spawn and someone else whose class just naturally, or he's better geared or has higher DPS, comes up, sees you fighting it already, and decides to
Join in?
Destroy
join
it.
in, but
Get more points because he did
gets more points, gets better rewards because he did more damage to it.
Probably, but the thing is, he would not be taking that away from you.
Okay.
I don't think.
So it's not like you're competing.
It's right, exactly.
It's
You're
not
not
that you're judged
competing
on
for the
separate
points.
skills.
You're exactly that. To my understanding,
See, that would work.
I've not actually, personally seen this
Right.
happen, but to my understanding, that is how it works.
Now, if it drops like a specific piece of gear, will there just be one, and then you both have a chance to roll, or
You
is
both
it?
get separate loot that is tailored to you specifically.
Oh, okay.
And again, that's to my knowledge from all I read.
Right. Well, if that's the case, then I think that'll be really good because that will really encourage players to help each
Yeah,
other out. 'Cause
exactly.
they'll say, hey, he's fighting that. It's not going to be, well, he's tagged it for screw him, right?
Yeah, exactly. I
No,
did
you'll
that
see
so
that.
many
Yeah,
times in
of
WoW
course.
where it was like I have, this quest, that's a kill quest, I need to kill these amount of people, I need one left, there's one right there's a guy running to it, and I just run through and just like ice lance and just get him before anyone else. I've done that so many times, I felt like such a douchebag, but I was like, the developers did this to me, I didn't do this to myself.
I'm the slave to mechanics!
But no, if that's the case, then that'll be really good, because like I said, it'll encourage people to help each other out.
Right.
Saying, hey, I have vested interest.
Right.
Even though I didn't start this encounter.
Right.
If I join in, I'll be able to do it.
And that's why they were seeing all these people just naturally flock together, is that they didn't have to be in a group, they all got experience, they all got rewards, and they just wanted to work with each other because that was more enjoyable.
And I think as a final point, I'll just leave it at this.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty long at this point.
We neglected to take into account probably the most obvious reason of why sometimes those communities aren't formed. The number of players.
Right.
I mean, some games, they form those communities instantly, and they just kind of disappear because people stop playing. Some games, it takes a little while. Like, I don't think WoW had this instant, I play with my friends. Maybe it did because it was so revolutionary. But even EverQuest was before that.
Mm-hmm.
So, if people are consistently playing, that will help its chances of having a lot of people, a lot of interaction, and the fact that it's free.
Yeah.
It's free to play.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's got. It's free to play. But I also think the hype and the revolutionary nature of this
is going
to initially attract people. And the fact that WoW is dying.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Guild Wars 2 has everything in its favor in terms of being able to present good multiplayer content while having a decent single-player story. But we'll just have to wait and see, because I want it to be. I want it to be the next WoW for me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to play it for 6 years and build relationships with people and conquer challenges together and really feel like I really made a mark on the world, not just in a big sense, but in my memory, in my heart, and when I played my experience. Like in WoW, that's something I'll take with me forever. That was a big part of my life.
Mm.
And I hope Guild Wars 2 is the next chapter of that.
I've had so many very fond memories, or very terrible memories of WoW, and they'll stick with me for the greater portion of the rest of my life.
Will.
Yeah.
And that arena game that I was talking about earlier,
we
left that game.
Yeah.
We left it. We
Wasn't
could
it
not
like
kill
the
them,
next-
and they could not kill us.
Wasn't it
and
like-
we left?
Wasn't it like the next day we faced a Arms
Oh,
Warrior?
Arms Warrior and a Holy Valley.
No, Arms Warrior Resto Druid. We beat them after a 20-minute game. We queued up, same guys.
And they left. I think they left.
No. Another 20
Oh, right.
30-minute game.
Oh yeah, and then we won again.
Yeah, we won again.
And then we actually we saw what server they were on, because we fought them twice. We saw what server they were on, made tunes on their server, found them guys and whispered them, and we were like, hey, we were like, good game. That was incredible.
And that is those kind of experiences, interactions that you really
I hope
live
to
for.
have a lot of those from Guild Wars 2. I really do. Because Guild Wars, it was always a game that I really enjoyed.
Right.
And one of the things that I have more realized about it recently is how fleshed out their world is. Tyria is a fully formed place that has
That's going to be important.
fully formed and just amazingly in-depth races and creatures and places, and I just cannot wait to see these fully realized.
Yeah.
And
That was a long wrap-up right there.
it was.
Just
Checks
the
wrist.
last minute wrap-up, 10 minutes later.
That's how we do it, man.
Yeah, no, we always do that. It's like, and then final thought 10 minutes later, and I think we're done now. Yeah. But no, I am really looking forward to seeing
Well, sir,
if they can really deliver on Guild Wars 2.
You only have to wait no more than
a
a year.
No more than a year.
We can actually say that now.
11 months at the latest.
At the very most. 11
I'm calling
months.
it. People have asked me. I'm calling it. I'm saying holiday season 2012.
Might as well. That's safe, right?
I know, right?
Calling
Can't
it
possibly be
December
later
31st.
than that.
Well, all right, guys.
Yeah, I think we're done.
That's been fun.
It was very fun.
So I hope we gave you some things to think about and kind of tied you over as you're waiting for Guild Wars and kind of give you a reason to think about why you're going to play the game and what you're looking forward to most about it. So that's going to be it for us.
Any questions for the audience?
What is the point of human existence?
All right, I think we'll end there.
There's your question. There's your question for the day.
Thanks for watching, guys. I'm XollFury.
I'm Zimbo Chaos.
Don't worry about me.
Yeah, you know him.
He's the man who needs no introduction.
That's
or outro or whatever the opposite of introduction is. Anyways, later, guys.
Adios.
Yeah, bye. Whoops.
Wait, we were supposed to do that entire interview in that?
Yes.
What do you want from me?
Okay. Okay. I'll start this now.
Well met, viewer.
Well met. Okay, alright.
This is what Scott Jackson would wear.
I fucking quit!
Grab the shit.
All this is going in the bloopers. Oh my god.
I'll be my fucking trainer.
Okay, that's enough. Game face.
Game face.